Hello, YouTube channel and my Facebook group, CCDAB, baby, what's going on? So, today I am going to do decals for the back of the Dominoes. So I turned the music down. So I know previously I did the decals and I did them on these ornaments. However, I wanted to show you how I do them on Dominoes. And it's basically the same thing. Today I'm going to be using Mod Podge. You can still use the other two. Tacky is one of them that I use, and then another glue that I got from Dollar Tree also work. But I have Mod Podge, so that is what I'm going to be using today. So I have my dominoes and I have them in different stages so I can show you how to do it. So we're going to start with the decals. Now, these are the decals that I'm using for this set of dominoes. This is regular copy paper. Just regular copy paper, and I printed it on Premium Presentation Mate. So nothing special, just regular copy paper. Once I printed it, I put them on my cutting mat. I cut them, then I used the blow dryer to heat set the ink and just to make sure it was all the way dry. But I made these yesterday, so they are dry. First thing I'm going to show you is exactly what we did with these ornaments, however we're going to do it with the dominoes. So I'm going to show you the different steps to do it. I have my Mod Podge, and I usually just pour it in a medicine cup or put it on the, if I'm just doing one set, I'll take a top for a water bottle. This is not a water bottle top, but a water bottle top, and I'll put it in there from an old water bottle. But I have about 7 things of dominoes to do today, so I went ahead and poured it out, and I put plastic on it just so it won't dry out because I'm going to be at this all day. So let me open this up and we'll get started. Okay, so let me get the camera adjusted so you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to move this out of the way. Okay, so I have my decals here. I got to make sure I get them in the camera. Okay, so first thing first, my dry, ashy hands. So let me tell you why I'm bringing your attention to this. Not because they're dry and ashy, because we can see that they're dry and ashy. But you want to make sure when you're working with epoxy, you don't want to put on lotion or nothing like that. So I make sure I thoroughly wash my hands if I'm not using gloves, because I will put a layer of epoxy and I don't want the oils from my hands. So we're going to start with the first one. And so the first thing you do, just like with the decal on the, with the decal on the ornament, all you're going to do is you're going to cover the back. And so I just go straight up with a very thin layer. And you want to make sure you cover the whole thing. So then I'll take it. So I covered the whole back of it. And now I'll just take the decal and I'm going to place it on the domino. So that's the first step. Fix this camera, go outside. There we go. So that's the first step. I took it, covered the whole back, and I'm going to place it on the domino. Okay? Making sure that I press it all the way down. And I usually just take the back of my paintbrush, of course. That's a paintbrush I'm using. Just a small paintbrush with the Mod Podge. So I put it on there. So that's your first step, is covering the whole back, making sure that every little tiny inch of that is covered with glue, and you place it on the domino. So once you do that, you let that dry. And I usually let about 30 minutes between coats of glue. So I have one where I've already did the back. So this has been sitting for 30 minutes. The next step I do is I do the front, and I go first, I go down, up and down. So I just make sure I get the edges. And go straight down with a thin coat, making sure I'm covering every little inch of the decal. And once I get to the bottom, I'm gonna go up because I want the decal to be sealed around the edges. So around the edges, you go opposite of the edges. Okay, so that's the second coat. And if you make a mistake and say you take your brush and you go all the way over and hit the side of the mold, all you do is just take a Q-tip and just wipe that up, okay? So that's the second coat. This second coat I also leave for 30 minutes at the least. Sometimes it's longer than that, but at the least. This one I already has the 2 coats on it, so I have the coat on the back of the domino that stuck it down. I let it dry for 30 minutes. Then I did the up and down coat, and I let that dry 30 minutes. Now I'm going to do the last coat. And this will also go for 30 minutes after I do it. So again, I'm just going the opposite direction. I went up and down first. Now I'm going to go sideways. I go around the edges first, put a little bit on the edge. Then I take that glue and just make it go all the way across. Then I take the other way. I'm hitting the edges because I want to make sure those edges are sealed. Then I take that and pull it across. Making sure that I cover the complete decal. Take them edges at the bottom and the top, and I'm going to go opposite of that. Just making sure that I seal the edges. I got some glue on the mold. And the reason I don't want the glue on the mold, because when I fill it up with epoxy, if that glue is on the mold, it's going to be on the outside of the epoxy. So it's going to cure, and it's going to be glue hanging out of it. So I want to make sure I clean around there. Now that is the second coat, and I let that also sit for 30 minutes. Once I let it sit for 30 minutes, let me do this one. Once I let it sit for 30 minutes, then I'm ready for the last layer of the epoxy. And this one, for these, I'm gonna actually put these in the oven, or the dryer. I'm saying oven. I'm gonna put this in the epoxy dryer. I use the epoxy dryer, and I have a convention oven that I use. I use both of them, but these gonna go in the dryer. So I'm gonna let this sit for at least 30 minutes, because that's what it says on the back of the Mod Podge, for it to dry. So I'm gonna let it dry for at least 30 minutes. And that will be sealing, completely sealing my decals. Once they dry, then I will put the last layer of epoxy on it and dry them. Whichever way I dry them, oven, dryer, or just letting them regularly dry. Remember, when you're handling these dominoes, after you put the decal and you're going to pour epoxy, be very careful because you don't want to break the seal on the Dominoes, because if you break the seal on the Dominoes, when you pour your last layer on top of it, there's a chance that the epoxy will seep down the side of the Dominoes and you'll have a big old mess. So make sure you're very careful when you're handling the Dominoes. So another way that I do, and I'm going to go ahead and clean this brush so it won't get hard while I tell you how to do this other way. So another way to do your dominoes, and this is a domino that I have sealed completely and it's completely dry. Another way to do your dominoes, when you fill up your mold, say like this one. I feel this one too full, and this is gonna be a keychain. If I fill my mold up too full and I don't have room for another layer of epoxy to cover the decal, you can use UV resin. Okay, so you can use UV resin and it will seal it, and you can do the dome effect. So the way you use the UV resin, and I have this is less resin, clear UV resin, hard type. This 120 grams. So the way I do that, UV resin is used with a UV light. And the light I have is just like one that you'll see in the regular nail shops. Just one I got off of Amazon, no certain ones. This one was, I think, about 15 bucks. So the way you do the UV resin, let me fix the camera. Give me a second so you can. Okay. All right. I had to bring the camera up a little bit. The way I do the UV resin is I'll take the domino and take the resin, and all you do is fill the top with the resin. Okay, I'm making sure that I fill it. This is also how you dome your dominoes, and dome mean make it have that round at the top. So I just make sure that it's to every corner, and I just take a toothpick and move it to the corners. If you get bubbles in it when you do this, the only thing you have to do is use your toothpick to pop the bubbles. I want to make sure that it's covered all the way to the edges. Not over the edges, not almost to the edge, but all the way to the edge. Some people do their domino, move it, you know, like, listen. Some people will put it on and take their domino and move it like that. I found that I made more of a mess, and it will go over the side. So once I do that, I'll take my UV light. Let me plug it up. Take my UV light, and I will put the domino in the UV light, and I usually do mine for 2 cycles of 60 seconds. Make sure that's to the end. So I just stick it in there, and I do 2 cycles of 60 seconds. Okay, that's the first cycle. Mine only go up to 60 seconds, so I hit it again. So I'm doing it for 2 minutes. All right, so once it comes out, it is hard, shiny. Uh-oh, I want to see if you can see. But it's hard, It's shiny, very shiny. I love that shine. And that's how I do if I either forget to leave enough room for the domino back for the final layer of epoxy, or if I make the dominoes and then figure afterwards I want to put a cover on it. So I thought I would bring that to you all real quick and let y'all see how to do the decals on the back of the dominoes. So I hope you enjoyed this. If you already haven't, please subscribe to this YouTube channel, like this video, and share. Make sure you follow, hit the bell, ding, 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 so you'll be notified when I upload new videos. I thank you so kindly, and I hope you have a great day.